Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Career Lab. We are so happy to be back with a new episode as we are every month. And just for those of you who don't know about Career Lab, again, we're available anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple and Spotify and all the other platform outlets. Career Lab is a show that really stars the wonderful woman sitting right next to me, virtually anyhow, Julie LaCroix. Julie's a career counselor and coach and has a wonderful background in helping people deal with career issues. I'm a business coach and an executive coach, so I also deal with the exact same kinds of things with my companies and with executives. So between the two of us, we kind of cover the whole spectrum, and that's what Career Lab is about. We also, as I'm sure those of you who heard the show know, bring on special guests. Special guests are people we feel like that have something unusual, have a unique story, have achieved something, and are very interesting. Last show, of course, we had a very interesting special guest, Greg Ward, and we're going to continue to do that this year. Today's show, by the way, good morning, Julie.
Well, good morning, Joel.
How are you?
It's always wonderful to see you.
It's always wonderful to see you. How are you doing?
I get so wrapped up in your voice. I love the cadence of your prose. I'm listening to the show myself.
The only reason I'm so good with that is because I'm looking at you. So today's show is going to be an interesting show. It actually features a guest we've had a couple of times on the show previously. And Julie sourced this guest, and I think she was a client of yours and still may be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
friend.
And friend, yeah. This guest was struggling with the decision about what to do career-wise, which is exactly our sweet spot. We help people when they're stuck, when they don't know how to get from one place to another, and we do a lot of that on Career Lab. You know, this is our 6th season, so we've been doing it for many years. And this guest did make a decision after meeting with Julie and I on an episode, and we thought we would have her back to talk about the latest developments in her career, because in this case, her decision to do what she did has turned out to be really a good decision.
Spectacular.
Yeah. So let's get going. We'll bring her in without further ado. We'll bring Judy on, and I'm going to let her come in the room right now.
Hey everybody, Julie LaCroix here from the Career Lab podcast. Just want to give a shout out to Douceur Global Education. Douceur.education is the website. If you're looking for an easy access, low price online solution to getting an MBA, Douceur Global is your place to go. They offer amazing faculty, incredible speakers, customized education to your line of work. And do you need a bachelor's degree? You don't. If you have 5 years of management experience or equivalent, and you're looking to advance your career, maybe move out of a family business, move into a different company in your current industry where they're looking for some additional training, or you just want to be promoted and get some professional development, please reach out to Douceur Global. It's douceur.education. They have the solution for you. It's a wonderful intersection between professional mobility and academic pathway, academic progression. Douceur Global Education.
Hey,
wow.
there she is. Judy Ortega. How are you?
I'm well. Good to see you both again.
Really good
Hi,
to see you.
Hi, Julie.
It's been a while.
It's been entirely too long since I've got to talk with you. We have to change that.
Yes, well, you've been busy, and that's what we're here to talk about today.
Yeah, from what I've been hearing, you've been extremely busy. And to give some background, I mentioned this before you came on the program, that originally when we met with you, you were, deciding about a potential career move one way or the other, and had a lot of ambivalence about that. And Julie and I walked you through that and helped you make a decision. And now it turns out, a couple of further changes down the road, that it seems like the decision you made has turned out to be a really exciting one.
Yes. It's been an interesting last probably year of just, I think, doing some personal and professional discovery, really sort of looking hard at what is my worth and what do I feel like the company I was working for is doing to ensure that not just I, but others were, I don't know, I think were messaged just what their worth was. And there were a lot of changes this last year that, created just some really unfortunate situations for a lot of people who've been there a long time. And so I thought, well, I think I'm just going to take matters into my own hands and quietly. And so I sort of started a departure plan last May, and started here at my new company the first of this year. My new job is team director, global events at Microsoft.
Right. So wonderful job. And why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing now? And also maybe you want to reference back that those moments you talked about just a minute ago when things were kind of difficult and you weren't sure about the value, that you were going to be able to either deliver or that the company was going to recognize in you.
Yeah. So, it's funny, Joel, I was anticipating some of these questions today. And so I was doing a little practicing in the mirror, to be quite honest, because I want to be mindful of being able to really share the truthfulness and the honesty of the situation. I also don't want to marginalize the company or badmouth them in any way, because there are still people who work there that I consider to be close friends and colleagues and so forth. But I will say this.
Before you do, let me just get our listeners back on board, some of whom may have not heard your earlier episodes. So are you talking about a company that you're no longer with? Or
correct. Yes,
right. So,
the one I left.
Right. Okay, go ahead.
So changes and acquisitions and companies, making pivots and all this, that happens every single day. And since prior to the pandemic, I was part of growing an agency within a multi-billion-dollar company. And through the pandemic, the agency was nearly solely responsible for really being able to bring the company back and start to realize the opportunities to then also bring back other members of other lines of business within this massive organization. Well, about a year and a few months ago, the company acquired another agency to sort of more fully populate all of the offerings that a global agency would typically have in their suite of services to be more globally competitive. In my opinion, I think my former company over-indexed on the feelings of the acquirees and gave them the opportunity to then become the leaders over all of the agency, when, again, in my opinion, they did not possess the experience required to lead a team like mine and other teams like mine at the agency.
Right.
And rather than bringing a growth mindset and an eagerness to learn about what it is that had made us great for so many years, they chose a different path and management style that really no longer fit what I felt to be true examples of leadership and I think just really understanding what people have done to get them to this place as well.
It sounds like you put a lot of thought and energy into your evaluation of what was going on at that time.
I did.
And again, that's one of the things we always value in professionals such as you. I mean, it's obvious that you didn't evaluate and reach these decisions lightly. You put a lot of effort into that, and that's very interesting. Well, so continue to tell us what's happened then as a result of that.
Yes. Well, I will say that I was very careful and very reserved and quiet as I was going through this process with Microsoft while I was still at my former company, as one would. Although I was very fortunate to have a close relationship with my vice president at my former company, and who is still just a great mentor and champion to this day. But I also want to add that when I told my team I was leaving, I was very honest with them. And I told them why, and I gave them specifics. And the message was, listen, you are all too great to settle. And so I am voting with my feet to give you a voice. I'm going to set an example of what it is you do not have to stand for. And I'm going to go.
Yeah, I wish there were more executives who conducted themselves the way you do. Julie and I work with a lot of executives who are in these kinds of roles and facing these kinds of challenges. And I don't hear what you just said very often.
Interesting.
I mean, I hear a lot about, personal evaluation of what can I get? What can happen for me by making these changes? How will it work or not work for me? And also a lot of casting negativity on, others in the company that one may be transitioning out of, or like that. I hear a lot of that, and it really colors the discussion. I'm hearing a different kind of voice from you this morning. What do you think, Julie?
Judy is a perfect example of an executive who values leadership and loyalty to her team. This has been a 2-year process that she has been in, considering an early stage exit prior to the merger that she is referencing. She's been on our show twice, considering, should I stay or should I go? And
Right.
then the second time to come back and tell us why she ended up staying. And that was because of the loyalty to her team. In important careers where you're anchored into the organization in a way Judy has been in her prior organization, the obligation and the sense of dedication to the mission at large and the people who are performing that mission can become greater than the activation of our own potential and the impact of making a move on the team or on the company or on the next company. And I think that Judy has reached that point in her career where she's beyond proven that she can produce global events, large scale global events. She's beyond proven that she can orchestrate and deliver on everything from KPIs to customer experience. There isn't a corner, a molecule of a global event that Judy doesn't know how to land perfectly. She has excellent communication skills. Her ability to collaborate across the C-suite of her clients and her own company is formidable. But in her growth, I've known Judy for 10 years, and in the arc of that 10-year growth, and most importantly, the last 3 or 4 years, her sense that her skill set has morphed and evolved from global event production to true leadership and teamwork and straight business acumen. That's really what's taken precedent. And I believe those are part of the reasons why originally a couple of years ago when she came on the show, her discomfort with her company was that she was feeling like she wasn't getting the leadership freedom and the business freedom, business impact freedom that she wanted. She wanted that to grow. So she was feeling a little bit stuck, but the loyalty pulled her back in. So I think stepping back from Judy's situation, if we look at that right there, sometimes it's something within us, as it was with her, that knows it needs to break out, but it doesn't know when or how or if it's the right time or the right context. in her situation, the context changed. The company merged. There was a new C-suite in town with laying on a whole nother culture that shifted the context so significantly that it allowed her to leave. The context that she was making the decision from in prior years was completely different. A lot of times, back to your point, Joel, an executive would shame the company, shame the culture, shame the new leadership. Judy saw this as an opportunity to see the glass half full. Like she says, vote with her feet, set an example. And even though she's not leading internally those same team members, she's made a very meaningful meta message impact to her team that life goes on. And we all still have potential. And when we have that inner feeling that we're not reaching that potential, and the accommodations of camaraderie or short commute or whatever that is are not outweighing the internal drive to reach our potential, and then you have the context shift, that's a recipe for serious career movement for somebody at Judy's level. And she has now reached that stage. I'm going to let her talk a little bit more about where she is. She's reached that stage now where it's not really about making sure that everyone's on their agenda and on their timeline and the clients are happy. It's much more about the business impact. It's much more about the leadership. It's much more about having a seat at the table. And I think that if the context hadn't shifted, you might still be struggling with not having that as available to you. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about what your day-to-day experience is. What skills are you really bringing forth into your position? What really matters? What is making you good at what you do? Of course, it's your fluency in global events, but it's something else now.
It is something else. And Joel, I just want to go back real quick to the comment you made about you don't often hear certain things that I've said from other leaders. For me, I think, and I say this to people who are my directs now, who want to move into people leadership. And I say, okay, that's great. Let's work on that. Let's talk about what that means to be a people leader. Also, my number one piece of advice for them, or something that I want them to really think about what this would mean for them, is that being a people leader is never about you. It's never about you. It's always about what is going to make not only the team great, but what is it that is going to help each individual achieve the next step in their career. And when I had the opportunity to go through my loop prior to being onboarded here at Microsoft, there was a lot of conversation around recent reorgs, around individuals on the team who maybe have had 2 or 3 different managers in the last several years or couple of years, that there was just some ambiguity around processes, around new work streams, around new disciplines and functions across this, what is now our global marketing, really, business group within Microsoft. CC and AI is what we call it. And the first thing I thought was, oh my gosh, this is amazing because I'm here again. I already did this once. When I went to my former company in the first place, the situation was exactly the same. Exactly the same. People didn't know how to talk to each other. People didn't know how to manage processes. People in different departments, I don't like you because I'm going to land grab over here and I want to be seen over here and prove my value. Well, that's just anxiety. That's just what is my worth. That's just no one has consistently showed up for me to say, I hear you, and I hear that these are all of your goals and objectives for you personally and for your career. And so coming here right off the bat, I really felt confident that I could make an impact by going on kind of a big ears, small mouth listening tour, right? And just let people talk, just get it all out, because I don't take any of that personally. I wasn't here. I didn't create that. But what are some past skills and situations and some difficult, right, challenges that I could pull from my past that I know worked, that I could apply here? And so far, the feedback has been really fantastic. And the team is just like, you could just sort of see they started here, right, the first couple of weeks. And now they're just, they're here. They're just like, okay, we're going to do this now. We're going to talk about how I get to advocate for you and all the great work you're doing, all the impact you're showing when review time comes in the summer. And so they needed an advocate. They needed a voice because they were losing theirs, I think, just by constantly having to do it by themselves. Like, I need someone else to say, yeah, I'm awesome. And that's my favorite part of my job as a people leader, is to be able to just, tell anyone who will listen, look at these awesome people, and we should be doing X, Y, and Z for them because it'll be better for our business.
I was in a training yesterday on leading executive teams using AI, and a lot of the same things that you are just referring to, and it was with a very famous facilitator, came up. So I think I want to go back to what Julie asked you to kind of walk us through some of your current role. But before we do that, just another comment that I think is prescient right now, because we're at a time where a lot of the boundaries and norms in corporate functioning and events have been loosened and are no longer as well delineated as they used to be. And I think that's very troubling. And I think it's a very difficult time in that context. So that gives us, Julie and I, more impetus to hear from you about, as she said a few minutes ago, what you're actually doing with your team right now in the global event planning arena to facilitate those goals.
Yeah, so it's very different, right? Because I came from a supplier and now I'm on the corporate side. So every single thing we do maps to business outcomes.
Right.
Right. So I am the director over the flagship team. So these are the largest events that we produce. This is Microsoft Ignite, Microsoft Build. We have a lot of very large scale Microsoft corporate partners events that we do. We just did one Tech Connect in February. We do one called Start in July.
So are you leading the team that plans these big events? Because I know about these events.
Yeah.
Well, okay, that's quite a position.
Yes.
Judy, I mean, that's, we need to stop and give you some props for just having that position. That's a very important corporate position, and not only gives you a lot of important things to do, but also, I would imagine, and we can talk about this in a minute, gives you a chance to implement some of the direction you feel would be important for the company, the people who work there, the goals, those kinds of things. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt, but
no, not at all.
I wanted to let our audience know exactly what you were doing.
Yes, and
even bigger than that is you're helping set the culture of America. There's a lot that happens in these massive companies that impacts how we communicate digitally and work and purchase our technologies and communicate with others through these technologies. And Microsoft is no doubt a leader. And the fact that you are helping leading the orchestration of what that message really is going to be, how it's going to land, who's going to hear it, and what exactly they need to hear, and how that ties back to business, which ties back to what happens at the cash register for everyone here who's listening. This is important stuff. It's magnificent.
And do you have, Judy, do you, as your director in your capacity, do you not only organize these corporate events, but do you have impact or influence over their content?
So I'll give you a bit of a overview of how our teams are structured.
Good.
So we have executive producers. So my team, I have 7 executive producers, and each one of them has oversight of the end-to-end planning of these events. So I have 7 of them, and they each have their own remit of events, and some are larger, like flagship, and others every bit as consequential, every bit as important. One of my EPs, he's an amazing human, has been here a very long time, and in fact, I worked with him in a previous life, is responsible for our 50th anniversary and Copilot Announce coming out on April 4th. We're celebrating our 50th anniversary, which is exciting. So there are a lot of really great stories and so forth coming out every day. But within a large scale event like that, you have work streams. And it includes content and Marcom and registration and tools and logistics and transportation and, keynote design and breakouts and the hub and your partner relationships. And how is all of that going to show up? When your hub alone is over 500,000 square feet of a space, and that is one element of a big show. There's a lot. There's a lot of work that goes into just even that. And so really, when we talk about the actual content, and content here is really king and queen, right? It's what we get to share out about what is new and happening in all of the, obviously AI and Copilot and agents and all of that is really in the forefront now. So we have teams within the office of the CEO, as well as engineering and marketing, and within our teams as well, who actually literally develop actual content. And then we develop a content strategy that is, how is that going to be delivered through the event and out into the broader audience, and then individual market segments as well. And so within our work streams, we have yet another amazing subsets of experts in that space. And I'll tell you, I've been here 3 months now, 3 months. And the level of intellect here is something else again. I am surrounded by some of the smartest people in business. And the fact that I have access, and by the way, they give you half of Friday in the afternoon just to learn. Like, they don't want you to plan any meetings. Just go learn some stuff and hear. Yeah. And so they're very focused on giving everyone, whether you've been here 3 months or 30 years, the opportunity to continue to learn. So for me, every single part of my day, I'm continuing to learn and grow and understand more, not just about what I brought with me from my past experiences, but what it is that the company I now work for as a director is doing out in the world to basically change the face of technology as we've ever known it. It's pretty big.
Absolutely. Julie?
I hear the Microsoft culture is actually great.
It's
and I have worked with so many clients going in and out of Microsoft over the years, and they're all, every last one of them, just spectacular people.
It really, the culture here is amazing. We actually have a culture crew.
Oh,
Yeah, it's pretty great. Even within like our marketing org, we have a culture crew, and they want to make sure that we are connected, that we have a safe space to learn, that we have any opportunity we want to. Just go into other divisions, other disciplines, and sit down with people. Like I said, I was putting one-on-ones on people's calendars, and every single person is more than happy to just sit and talk because their mindset is if you're successful, then we're successful. And that is truly how they think about things here.
That's very interesting. The culture at Microsoft was not always great. There were some very significant issues in the past that I'm aware of from work I did. And this is a while ago, obviously. And so it seems like the development of a more forward-thinking culture, perhaps in conjunction with technological growth, has really occurred to Microsoft. That's very interesting.
Well, it is important. I mean, Microsoft represents the globe, right? And we look like that. You walk around our campus and we look like the world. And so they do a really great job of ensuring that we all have access to everything necessary to keep us current, keep us intellectually stimulated, keep us interested in growing. And they want to make sure that we have all the tools that we need.
One of the interesting things I'm hearing you talk about, Judy, in this context is because when I work with companies, obviously much, much, much smaller than Microsoft, one of the things I do is a culture audit. It's one of the very first things I do. And many of the companies, again, small, that I work with are having cultural problems. Because when I do a cultural audit, I interview people and we talk about these things, and that's how we improve culture. So obviously it's kind of a model for these smaller companies to look now towards how well Microsoft is doing in these areas.
You should go audit my last company, see how they're doing. Maybe they should hire us back just for that one session only.
So your current role then, as you're describing it, is a big picture role, and a very important role. Let's take a step back before we have to run out of time because you're such a high achieving and fantastic guest. Are you happy with what you're doing now?
Very, very happy. I laugh with my husband and tell him I feel like I gained another 10 IQ points today, because again, you are constantly learning. And the difference for me and what is so exciting and really fulfilling is not just that, but the pace is pretty fantastic. You don't really get time to just sit and think about, what am I doing in my garden this weekend? You do that at 6:00. And so what's been interesting for me to sort of reflect on these last 3 months is, I used to, the pace was kind of, up and down. So the pace is like this. It is like this, and that is what it is. And so at a very high level all the time. So you can imagine, and I had a really great analogy last night. If you think about, you do pretty good, you run 5Ks, you work out, you're feeling pretty good about yourself. And then one day someone says, okay, tomorrow we're going to start training for a marathon. And right now, I would like you to step out the door and go run 26 miles, and I'll see you at the end. It's just like that. It has gone from running 5Ks to training for a marathon every single day.
Very interesting. Well, Julie and I have a lot of experience here on the show, as well as off the show, but certainly on the show, dealing with career trajectory and change dynamics that are not quite as successful as yours. We deal with a lot of people who, have significant struggles, and that's one of the reasons why Julie is such a fantastic career coach, is her ability to understand those and get into the center of those and have an impact. So it's really a double pleasure to have someone we have worked with previously on the program who's now really experiencing the high, if I can say, of the best of all possible kind of experiences professionally. Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
And I'd like to say something to continue on that, Joel, it is a high, but it really is the fruit of your labor, meaning the labor of making the decision. The labor of making the decision was a 2-year journey, a 2-year process. It didn't happen immediately. You were looking for an answer 2 years ago. You made a decision that ended it. It bubbled back up. You made another decision to stay. It bubbled back up with a change in context, and all the cards fell together to bring you where you are now. So for our listeners, change is inevitable, as we all know. And sometimes it happens in career to us, and sometimes we impose change upon ourselves. Don't always look at change as an immediate decision that needs to be executed. Sometimes it's a process. Sometimes it happens over time. And if the answer that you're looking for to stay or go, or, ask for a different, department doesn't come your way, don't forget that you have an itch to do something different, but stay open to other situational clues and cues that can slowly shift that dynamic in your favor. It doesn't always have to happen overnight. And I think that the labor that you put into this decision has become extremely fruitful for you. And I want to make sure that you hear from Joel and me that we praise you for that patience and know that you're being rewarded for it.
Well, I appreciate that, Julie. And as Julie, as you know, patience is not my strong suit. So that is a skill that I have been working on.
Me too.
Well, I think that also we go back and we need to, give some props to the coaching relationship that you two had previously, which was, as you say, you've known each other for 10 years, and Julie, you were Judy's coach for a while. So I think in some of those relationships, the seeds of what is happening now developed. I got a call recently from a client who I'm no longer working with, and I had taken her through several. She's brilliant, and she works in corporate fraud detection. So she's really a highly trained and very serious executive. And I've taken her through several M&A events where the company she was working for was bought out by another company. And she finally reached out to me recently, and she's at a place where she's very happy. And her new company she was vetted by Apple and Facebook and a bunch of other companies, and she made a choice, and she's happy with that choice. So I think it's exciting to see a professional like you, Judy, get to a place where you are. Very, very exciting.
Thank you.
The other thing I think
happy for you.
We're so happy for you, and we kind of feel honored that we end up having you as a guest when you've achieved the level that you have achieved. I mean, I think it's something to, it's one thing to say I'm doing A or I'm doing B, but the way you just described what you're doing is really something very significant that impacts a lot of people in your organization and well beyond. So that level of achievement purely on its face is truly commendable, remarkable.
Well, I appreciate that. I tell my GM every day, I have moments where I pinch myself. It is not lost on me, how Microsoft views the role of director and people leader. And it is just an absolute honor to be in this position. And so I'm very grateful.
One more thing I'd like to say to our audience, because I think you represent something that Julie and I talk about a lot. People have a hard time with change. A lot of people don't proceed in life because they just can't adapt to change. Mm-hmm. They're just uncomfortable with it. They just can't manage it. Julie and I know this because we work with the psychological insides of people who are having trouble with that. And it's very troubling because, they probably miss out on the opportunity to go to a more high achieving and more effective place. You have reached a place like that. And so we want to say to everybody, don't be afraid of change. Don't be afraid to take a step one way or the other. Don't be afraid to put your toe out there, because look what happened. Look what happened to you.
Well, and you can just lean into the learning part of it. Again, I am surrounded by brilliant minds. And one of the first things they say to you when you're being onboarded at Microsoft, do not get, stuck. thinking that you shouldn't be here. Don't get stuck in imposter syndrome. The fact of the matter is, Microsoft wants you to learn, and they have hired you for a reason. So don't come in and compare yourself to the developers and the engineers and the VPs and the CVPs who have been here 25 years or more. Don't do that to yourself. Sit with the knowledge and the comfort that they picked you for your specific set of skills, and they think you belong here. And then go on your learning journey and lean into that. And so I remind myself of that every single day still.
Well, it has been really, truly a special experience to wrap up the time you spent with us during the different episodes with this one today. I never had an idea that it would be this meaningful, I think, for Julie and I professionally, and certainly for you, Julie, having worked with Judy over the years, and Judy, for you and what you've achieved and what you're yet to achieve, So we'll have to have you come back one more time and tell us about what all happens here over the next couple of years.
That fateful moment 5 years ago when we wrote the resume and you said, "Oh my gosh, I really am good at this."
So once again,
Julie,
I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
Once again, thanks so much for joining the show. It's a pleasure having you on.
Thank you so much.
And all best to you. Take care. Okay, bye-bye.
Great to see you.
Take care.
So now we usually have the most fun portion of the show, sometimes the most difficult, but usually the most fun, where Julie and I kind of wrap up a little bit what happened during the show. And we've had quite a few very interesting conversations. So what's your takeaway from this morning's episode, Julie? And
there's a lot more going on than just a job change here. A lot more. There's an acceptance of her leadership potential, her executive rank. She's embraced that. That's hard to do for the first time.
It's hard to do if you've never done it before, right? And you're just getting into it, right?
Correct. Disengaging from her team and facing the feeling of being disloyal or leaving them behind, reframing, finding it within herself to find a positive reframe on that. Accepting change, moving into an intellectually intimidating situation with confidence. I mean, that's what's really happening for Judy. It is a job change, and it's a great role, and it's got a great title, but there are some really important things happening that have a lot to do with Judy and not the job change. And I'm thrilled to see her stepping into her own, not coming into her own, really intentionally stepping into her situation. Very, very, very graceful, measured, deliberate, and resourceful. She's being very resourceful in doing it.
I wasn't there or around at this time, but specifically about this, but it seemed to me in the interview today that she had a very strong feeling of taking care of the team she was leaving behind.
Yeah.
And that's a very important thing, which is being lost in many companies.
Right.
The degree, and it's not just the degree of movement, but it's the kind of movement where here today, gone tomorrow. Who are you? I don't remember you. I mean, there's not that kind of caring that Judy seemed to indicate she had for her previous team in the way she handled her transition.
Yeah, and the opposite is true too. People who are attached to their teams are less likely to leave them on a sinking ship. And she refused to let that be the story. She wrote a different story. Like she said, I'm voting with my feet. I'm setting an example that if this isn't working for you, you don't have to settle for it. I think that's the word she used, is that you don't need to settle. And I'm not settling, and follow my lead if you like. So I think setting that example, even as no longer an employee, an external colleague, has got to be making meaning for the people she is no longer working with. It has to
Well,
be.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's what I was trying to get to a moment ago when she was in the room, about how difficult change is, and how she, just the way you described her, she's, voting with her feet. She's doing that. I mean, these are things that it's easy to talk about, but it's not always that easy to do.
It's not. And I think when it comes to change in career, It goes back to something we've talked about a few times recently, more career identity. If you see yourself in a company with a team in a role, hoping for more, that is a pretty etched in stone career identity. In her case, she was able to self-create an evolution of her career identity as somebody who deserved more and could successfully step into more. And when she made space for that new career identity, she was able to release from her old one and move forward. And in career transition, 7 or 8 out of 10 times, it's a career identity issue. People see themselves as one thing. They can't see themselves as something else, or they haven't had a chance yet, or nobody shined the light on that spot on the floor for them to actually take a look at it and become it. And once you become it in your mind, it's much easier to become it in real life. And so that's where the evolution, the identity work really becomes important. And I think very, very much so that Judy did that for herself by having focused throughout her elongated journey of change.
Right. And I think behind what you're saying at a deeper level, there's the question of psychological stability. She was a stable enough person to be able to go on the journey you just described. And I think that's one of the main reasons why many people can't and don't, because they're just not stable enough to step outside of that role, which gives them so much in terms of identity, and then move forward. And in this case, with your help, Judy was able to do that. She was obviously had some very healthy parts of her that she could activate to be able to do that. And again, that's kind of a message to everybody listening to the show today, is that, that's an important thing, that you feel grounded yourself. And the grounding you can achieve on your own is not because of your company. It's because of you. It's not only because you work at ABC Box Company. It's because you're who you are. That's an important difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that psychology, it definitely drives us, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Well, we've had a great show, and it's turned out to be a really exciting morning. So we're going to wrap up here. Love you, and I was so glad that we were able to meet with Judy today. It's been a fabulous episode. Remember, the Career Lab podcast is available on all platforms, and we have 6 years of shows. I was struck. Someone recently asked me about Career Lab podcast, and I told them where to go, and then they called me back and said, "Oh my God, I've just listened to a couple of your programs with so-and-so, a couple of our guests, and they were really fantastic." And so I encourage you all to take a listen to some of the shows we've done in the past, some of the wisdom that Julie has imparted onto our guests and our special guests, and some of my work as well, because I think there's a lot there to listen to.
Well, and it doesn't have a shelf life. Our content is rich and current, even though it may be 3 or 4 or 5 years old. It's still career counseling, and it's still very relatable to situations happening today. We do not follow trends. We've had a couple of guests who've talked about trends like DEI and things like that. But for the most part, almost every single one of our shows does not have a shelf life. So there's a lot of rich, valuable content for people who are looking for career advice. Please, please, please dive into our library.
Yeah, I think most of what, I'm so glad you said that, Julie, because most of what we talk about has the universality to it, that is not bound by, politics, culture, dates, or any of that. It involves everybody who's working and everybody who's trying to improve what they're doing working. So, okay, everybody, we'll see you soon, and take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.